You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
And hello and welcome into another season of the Braves POSTCAST, another season of Atlanta Braves baseball. The long wait is over, the winter is over, the spring training is over, and now it's time to get down to business, and the Braves did just that against the Philadelphia Phillies to open up the regular season. As always, I'm Grant McAuley. This is year number 3 for the Braves POSTCAST. I'll be riding along with Jake Mastriani through the most of the summer, the majority of the season, and into the fall. He'll be joining me a little bit later this weekend, and we'll get the whole band back together, just like the Braves did in Game 1 to pick up a 9-3 victory over the Phillies. And what I would say is very Atlanta Braves fashion. What we saw a lot of in 2023, a ton of runs scored. We didn't see any home runs. I'll get to that a little bit later. We also saw Spencer Strider on the mound for his first opening day start. I thought it was a pretty good step for him, and I thought the bullpen was great. You add all of that up, and we've got a pretty good show we're going to get into here. Of course, the Locked On Braves POSTCAST is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll have great Braves coverage for you all season long, so make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube. Leave us those likes, those comments, share the video with a friend. Subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts as well. Again, a great victory for the Braves in the opener of a 3-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies, part of a 6-game road trip to open up the season. For whatever reason, the Braves don't seem to open at home too terribly often, but when you open with a win, I don't think they care where exactly they are. You'll take all of those that you can get. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure you make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And now we're going to get started with what was a very good opening game for the Atlanta Braves, a rematch. It's hard to ignore the fact that the Braves and the Phillies have met the last couple of Octobers, and as irony would have it, or what have you, fate, coincidence, whatever it may be, the Braves found themselves starting their season in 2024, exactly where it's ended the past couple of Octobers. I talked to Spencer Strider about a week ago when he was named the opening day starter about if anything about this matchup means a little bit more, or if it's a bigger factor to beating the Phillies based on the recent history. And he said, well, no, because we can't atone for those losses, but we can win each and every opportunity we have each and every day. And that one game at a time approach is a big part of how the Braves have built the culture of winning that they have. And it's a big part of Spencer Strider's success to focus on the task at hand and not get lost in the narrative like many of us might as we talk about these things. But the Braves, with this 9-3 victory, thanks in large part to what they got on the mound, Spencer Strider, 5 innings of 2-run ball. We'll talk a little bit more about his start a little bit later on. The bullpen backing him up with 4 innings of 1-run ball. Braves pitchers striking out 15 Philadelphia hitters. And then you turn the page to the Braves offense, and we see something as nice as a 7-run 8th inning, highlighted by not 1 but 2 doubles in that same frame, 2 of his 3 on the day for the birthday boy Matt Olson, as the Braves scored 7 times, broke the 2-2 tie, and picked up this victory over the Philadelphia Phillies, pulling away with I'd say a patented Braves rally. Spencer Strider working those 5 innings, bullpen taking care of the rest, offense waking up late in the game. The 7th inning was also another important point, and it was a familiar face, someone who was not with the Braves when spring training began, but someone who came up in the right spot at the right time and had the right hit for the Braves to tie things up. It was a 2-run pinch hit double for Adam Duvall. Good pitchers duel between Strider and Zach Wheeler, the Philadelphia Phillies ace, who got the opening day start for them. A 2-run homer by Brandon Marsh was really the only blemish on Strider's card for the day. 5th inning started to get away from him, and that's kind of understandable when you haven't really pushed it that far in spring training. It's going to be, I think, a bit of a challenge the first time you get up over 80, up over 90 pitches, and he had a very long 5th inning, but able to minimize the damage and able to get himself through that frame and get the Braves where they needed to be from the pitching side of things. But Adam Duvall coming off the bench, pinch hitting for Jared Kelenic. We knew that was going to be part of the equation once Duvall was signed. How often was he going to be used? How many starts would he get? When would the Braves and Brian Snitker, pull that lever and use Duvall as a pinch hitter in a situation in which he could help the club out? And we got the answer on day one. They're not going to be afraid to use somebody who's been so integral to their success on some of their winning teams. And just great to see Adam Duvall right back in the mix and doing Adam Duvall type things. Matt Olson, 30th birthday on opening day. So happy birthday to him. Always great to celebrate with a win, but also 3 doubles, including a bases clearing 3-run knock in that 7-run eighth inning, but he was the man who got that frame started. And I'll go through that more a little bit in a minute, but really great to see Matt Olson doing it against a lefty. It was Jose Alvarado who was on the hill for a lot of that damage, or at least the start of it, as the Braves took the lead in this game. And Matt Olson right there in the middle of things last year when it comes to knocking in runs. He led Major League Baseball with 139 runs batted in, and he picked up 3 on opening day. Let's go through the totals briefly for the Braves. 9 runs on 13 hits, no errors. They left 9 men on base. For the Phillies, 3 runs, 5 hits, 1 error. They left 5 men on. It was a 7-run frame for the Braves that pulled them away for good in that 8th inning, as the Braves scored 9 times in the 7th and 8th innings combined to pull away and to take the 2-0 game that it was at that point and turn it into a lopsided Braves win. Spencer Strider, a no decision in this game. Pierce Johnson picks up the win. He is 1-0 on the season, quite obviously. Some very simple math for game 1. Jose Alvarado was charged with a loss, drops to 0-1 on the year. Strider will talk a little bit more about his matchup with Zach Wheeler in just a moment as well, but a good first start for him. Really nothing you could knock on that. Would love to have the one pitch to Brandon Marsh back, but otherwise, the Philadelphia Phillies, their lineup, that could not figure out how to do the kinds of things the Braves were doing by late in the game anyway. Atlanta out hitting the Phillies 13-5. But how about this? Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, and JT Realmuto, top 4 men in the Philadelphia order, 0 for 14 with 7 strikeouts on the day. Braves pitchers, as I mentioned, 15 strikeouts overall, 8 of those belonging to Spencer Strider, and 7 for the Atlanta Braves bullpen, which had 4 relievers come in after that. But really, no one was enjoying their time against the Atlanta Braves pitching staff on this day. Other than the Marsh home run and a couple of hits by Alec Boehm, it was a very quiet day for the Philadelphia Phillies lineup. Meanwhile, you look over on the other side, the Atlanta Braves, 2 hits for Ronald Acuna Jr., who walked, stole a base, knocked in a run, scored a run, just doing Ronald Acuna Jr. things. And then you had a 3-hit game for Matt Olson, who knocked in those 3 runs I mentioned. 3 hits for Michael Harris. How about that? Couple of runs scored, a run knocked in, including the go-ahead RBI for Harris as well in that 8th inning rally. And we saw that Harris had moved up from his customary 9th spot in the order to the 6th spot in the order here on opening day. And that's something I've talked a lot about on all the shows that I've been on. Of course, on From the Diamond, which you can catch on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game starting on Sunday. Moving Michael Harris out of the 9th spot is not because that didn't work. It's because he needs more plate appearances. And as we can see, putting him in the heart of the order today really helped out the Braves' efforts to score some more runs. It's going to net him a lot more plate appearances. And this is a kid that at 23 years old, I think is primed for a very, very big season. Another 3-hit game for a Braves player. Had to feel good for Orlando Arcia. He is not a popular figure up in Philadelphia, but I don't think he cares too much about that. 3 hits and 5 trips for him as he was part of the Braves hit parade. And again, 13 hits in total for Atlanta on the day, 5 walks. Braves did punch out 10 times, but overall, again, you had to look at this offense as being very well balanced. And doing all of this, I maybe buried the lead here for the Braves with a 9-run day, 0 home runs. A club that hit 307 last year. Not too many days the Braves didn't homer, but this was a little bit different look, and the Braves will certainly take it. Everything just started to come apart in the 8th inning for the Phillies as well. A lot of walks in that frame. Again, we'll walk through it a little bit later, but a really impressive overall performance by the Braves offense to really set the tone for this series. To back up Spencer Strider, the bullpen taking care of everything, and a recipe for a win on opening day for the Atlanta Braves. As we continue, we will get inside the game a little bit more. Spencer Strider and Zach Wheeler's battle in the early going. We'll go back through the key innings, the 7th and the 8th for the Atlanta Braves, and walk you back through how Atlanta picked up this win. And a little bit later on, we will preview game 2 of this series, which comes your way on Saturday. That is going to be Max Fried on the mound against Aaron Nola of the Philadelphia Phillies. All of that is coming your way as we continue here on the Locked On Braves postcast. You can say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. It's all out there for you. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Well, let's jump into what the Braves did in this game to pull away from the Philadelphia Phillies as this one went on. It was moving very quickly. I think we were into the 5th inning inside of about an hour. And the reason you can get there is because there was a great pitcher's duel going on. Spencer Strider really brandishing that new curveball. I thought that looked great. His fastball velocity up early on. I had a few people ask me, am I concerned about velocity as he went on? It was kind of down from the 97s, 98s, 99s that you saw early on to seeing some 95s and 96s. Again, you've thrown about 20 competitive innings thus far if you're Spencer Strider in Grapefruit League play. Haven't really pushed the pitch count up the way that you would expect. And the same was really true for Zach Wheeler. His velocity was up early on and kind of dropped into the 93 to 94 and some 95 range by the time he was done in his 6 innings as well. So I don't think that's really anything to be overly concerned about. Quite obviously, the Braves aren't concerned about it. Spencer Strider, not concerned about it. I think that early last year, he also had some velocity question marks in the early going of the year. But by the time he was done, 20 wins and 281 strikeouts later, it seemed like Spencer Strider had everything that he needed. But fun to see that new curveball as part of his arsenal. Looking at the line for Spencer Strider, 2 runs. They came on 1 swing of the bat, a Brandon Marsh home run. That happened in the 5th inning. Just 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts for Spencer, who gets a no decision in this game. On the other side, it was Philadelphia's Zach Wheeler, who looked very good as well early on. He had the Braves off balance, not really piling up strikeouts so much, but missing bats when he needed to, which is kind of how Zach Wheeler's been against the Atlanta Braves in his career. 6 innings of 5 hits, no walks, no runs, and 5 strikeouts for Zach Wheeler, who also gets no decision in this game, though he did leave with a 2-0 lead. That went away in the 7th when the Philadelphia bullpen stepped in, and perhaps that's the next best place we should go, because it was a big 7th inning for the Braves club, or a big hit from one of the newest Braves, and an important rally, obviously, to get your first runs of the year, to even things up, to give yourself a chance on the road in what we know is a hostile environment, a place that can be hard to win, a place that could be perhaps a bit unrelenting, a bit unforgiving. Maybe that's a fair way to size it up. But either way, the Philadelphia Phillies, their 2-0 lead went away in that 7th inning after Michael Harris singled Shawn Murphy. And this is one we're going to have to get into a little bit more than I think anybody wanted to on day one. First major injury for the Braves this year. He was batting in that 7th inning, took a big swing, dropped his bat. I thought at first he might have hurt his wrist, but in fact, it's an oblique issue. So upon seeing the replay and upon knowing that it is an oblique and he's going to land on the injured list, and for how long, we don't really know what grade strain this might be, how long he could be sidelined. These obliques are a pretty tricky injury, but typically I would say it's weeks, if not a month or so, because rest is really the only way to get through this injury. That be kind of the only blemish for the Braves on this day, the injury to Shawn Murphy on day 1 of the season. He had to leave the game. Travis d'Arnaud came in. Orlando Arcia doubled after d'Arnaud finished the Murphy at bat with a strikeout. So you've got runners on 2nd and 3rd, and up comes Jared Kelenic. No, wait. It's going to be Adam Duvall getting his first opportunity in this stint with the Braves. He comes through with a 2-run double and ties up this game and knots it up 2-2 through 7 innings, as the Braves were able to keep the Phillies off the board and get back up in the 8th and go right back to work. And this is when things got pretty fun for Atlanta. And it's the birthday boy, Matt Olson, in the middle of it. You know, one of the most unassuming, quiet players that you're going to find, but did a lot of talking with the bat last year. 54 home runs, 139 runs batted in. A season that will win you the MVP most years if you maybe don't have a Ronald Acuna Jr. on your team or in your league. Well, Olson picking up right where he left off. He doubled to start the inning against Jose Alvarado, the hard-throwing lefty reliever for the Phillies. After Marcell Ozuna flat out, Olson was able to get over to 3rd, and Michael Harris brought him home with a go-ahead single to make it a 3-2 game, getting it through the drawn-in infield. After that, well, a little bit of wildness helped the Braves out quite a bit. Travis d'Arnaud with a walk. He was in the game, obviously, after Shawn Murphy had to leave. Orlando Arcia struck out for the 2nd out of the inning, but then Adam Duvall worked an important 2-out walk to get the bases loaded up. Ronald Acuna Jr. with a run-scoring single. A wild pitch brings in Travis d'Arnaud. Ozzie Albies walks, that reloads the bases. Austin Riley then walks with the bases loaded. That makes it a 6-2 game, and Matt Olson's 3-run double that capped that 7-run inning, and it put the Braves up by a 9-2 score, and a 30th birthday for Matt Olson that he probably won't forget anytime soon, though he's probably not going to necessarily hang his hat on the first of the 162 games that he plans to play this year, but a very, very good game for him, most certainly. Braves scoring all 9 of their runs in this game without the benefit of a home run. Again, after hitting the 307 last year, after slugging 501 as a team, you'd kind of expect if you see a Braves box score with 9 runs that you are going to be getting at least a home run or 2. The Braves are typically good for that, and I think they will be over the course of 2024, but they did not need a home runs on this day. Ronald Acuna Jr. singled to open up the season. First pitch of Braves season was put into center field. He stole second base, part of the 3 times that he reached base in this game. Again, as I mentioned, he also had a run-scoring single, 2 hits, a walk for Ronald in this one. Matt Olson, Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia, all with 3 hits apiece in this one as well. And I talked about Spencer Strider some and what he did in this one with 5 innings of 2-run ball, really quality work. We got to talk about the Braves bullpen some, because as you looked at when the Braves were going out in the offseason, knowing that you've got Spencer Strider, knowing that you've got Max Fried, and hoping to bring back Charlie Morton, that's a solid starting 3. But who was going to be the 4th pitcher there? Well, they go out and get Chris Sale. They signed Reynaldo Lopez as well and have him in the starting rotation to start the year. So you knew they were going to have to augment that starting staff, but you also knew that the bullpen was going to be a huge part of the success of this club, of any club really, and is projected by Fangraphs to be one of the best in baseball. And you can see why on a day like today, because you have no shortage of options and guys that you can turn to in a tight game as it was until the Braves scored 7 times. And you can really trust whoever it is in a particular matchup to get the job done that day. I think there's a lot of accountability amongst that group. And talking to AJ Minter, who pitched in this one of the 4 Braves relievers, he said there's a lot of belief here. They get Tyler Matzik back in this mix. We didn't see him on opening day, but the return of Joe Jimenez and Pierce Johnson, who both re-signed with the club. New acquisition Aaron Bummer tossed the 9th inning as well, along with AJ Minter. That was a group that tossed 4 innings. They allowed 2 hits, 1 run, only 1 walk, and struck out 7. If you can get 4 quality innings out of your bullpen like that more times than not, with this offense and a decent start from Spencer Strider or anybody else, you're going to feel pretty good about your chances to win a baseball game, and the Atlanta Braves most definitely should. Because, again, it's an impressive group when you look at it all told, 1 through 8, and throwing in the fact that you got Jesse Chavez back in this mix. I think that he's somebody that could play a multi-inning role if they need to, or at least, the 4 to 5 out kind of role on this team. And all the other guys really seem to have kind of the pedigree and the experience that you need. And as we know from the 2021 season and the birth of the night shift, the legend of the night shift, well, you can have your bullpen carry you quite a bit when it comes to October, but you got to get there and you got to score those runs. And we learned that last year as well. Also looking at the other interesting things from this one in particular, again, the 9 runs, no homers, 3 hit games apiece for Matt Olson, Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia, 2 hits for Ronald Acuna Jr., and very good work from this bullpen on top of Spencer Strider's start. All of it added up to a very nice Braves victory in the first of the 3-game series against the Philadelphia Phillies. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Shawn Murphy's injury, what that means, what the Braves might be doing as far as the roster is concerned. They'll have to make a move. Clearly, if they place him on the injured list, they're going to need a second catcher. We'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll get you set up for Game 2 of this series, which will see Max Fried and Aaron Nola locking up as the Braves and Phillies meet again. And we will also be talking a little bit about this road trip, the first 6 games of the year for the Braves, how it lines up, and when they get home to face the Arizona Diamondbacks to really get this season started. All of that as the Locked On Braves postcast continues. All right, let's talk a little bit about Game 2 of this series and what the Braves are going to have to do heading into that game. Clearly, it's going to be another good pitching matchup, but the injury to Shawn Murphy, that was not part of the Braves' plans here in 2024. But and Brian Snitker talks about this every spring, we're going to have to use a lot of different guys. Typically, we're talking about pitchers, but no club is immune to injury. I think that's the other thing that Snit always talks about. We're going to have to overcome that. They dealt with it some last year, having Travis d'Arnaud dealing with his concussion issues early in the season. Shawn Murphy really carried the load for the Braves last year. Now it would appear that the roles could be reversed, and Travis d'Arnaud, who is a catcher that could be starting for most clubs and is more or less kind of in a timeshare with Shawn Murphy where he was going to get less of the playing time, now he's going to be stepping back to the forefront. But this is somebody that the Braves trust an awful lot. I mean, Travis d'Arnaud has really built and carved out a very nice spot on this Braves club, an important role, I should say, not to sell him short. He caught every single inning of their 2021 postseason run to the World Series, and he's a guy that I think that, to a man, this pitching staff definitely trusts alongside Murphy for the game planning that they do, the ability to help them navigate through the difficult situations, and to get the best out of this pitching staff. So clearly the short-term plan is to get Travis d'Arnaud back behind the plate for the majority of this. Chadwick Tromp, who has been with the Braves for the past few years, he is down in Gwinnett. That would be the first call that the Braves could make. They could look around and see if there's some other options, catchers that got cut loose at the end of spring training that might be in shape and ready to jump in and perhaps find themselves in the Braves organization to build some quality depth, because you don't know how long Shawn Murphy is going to be out. hopefully it's, maybe just a couple of weeks, maybe it's just the short stint, but these oblique injuries, they tend to linger. And really the only way to get over it is to spend time away, resting and not swinging a bat. And if you're a baseball player, it's pretty difficult to do your job when all you can do is rest and you can't swing a bat. So we'll have to see how long it takes for Sean Murphy to get back in. But the short-term plan of putting Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate should have the Braves where they need to be, and then they can mix in Chadwick Tromp or whoever else that could possibly help them out there. Not what you wanted on opening day, clearly. Great comeback victory. A lot of good stuff going on for this Braves club, but ultimately they had to find a way to overcome injuries in 2023, in 22, 21, 20. I mean, you get this story. You see where it's gone. I mean, the Braves have gone through it time and time again, whether it's in the pitching staff, in the rotation or the bullpen, whether it's having to overcome the loss of Ronald Acuna Jr. in 2021. I mean, a lot of people would have looked at the Braves and said, okay, well, good luck trying to figure that out. But as we all know, that was a pretty cool story for the Braves by the time 2021 had came and gone. Then I don't want to overblow it because this is a Braves club that is so deep. And as I've talked about and written about, a lot over the past 3-4 months over the course of the winter, this is a Braves team that when you look around, unlike a lot of other clubs in baseball, doesn't have a lot of moving parts, doesn't have a lot of question marks, that they were trying to find the answers to in spring training or positional battles that they were trying to figure out who's going to be the best option. You look out in the outfield, you got Ronald Acuna Jr., Michael Harris. You feel good about the Jared Kelenic situation alongside Adam Duvall, who's now back. Around the horn, Austin Riley, Orlando Arcia, Ozzie Albies, and Matt Olson. These are guys that want to play every single day. And behind the plate, Sean Murphy is a workhorse, but you're going to have to find a way to push on without him. And Travis d'Arnaud offers the Braves a very good option in the stead of Sean Murphy. And again, hopefully he'll be back sooner than later once that IL stint is up. But as the Braves turn their attention to the rest of this series and the rest of the season, they're going to try to do it, as I mentioned at the top of the show, one day at a time. And that means game 2, which is coming your way on Saturday. It's left-hander Max Fried will be on the mound for the Braves. This is an interesting year for Fried, to say the very least. He has been the subject of a lot of talk, a lot of speculation regarding whether or not he might sign an extension, his free agent walk year in general. This was kind of one of the hot topics for the Atlanta Braves, and how could it not be when you think about how many extensions the Braves have signed? Fried, not yet on that list. In fact, of the 7 long-term extensions that Alex Anthopoulos has signed, beginning back, I believe, in 2019 with Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, the only pitcher is Spencer Strider. So could Fried kind of buck that trend? Are the Braves in a place luxury tax-wise where they're ready to take that on? Those were all the things we were talking about when it was hot stove time. But now, as talking to Max Fried down in spring training will remind you, he said, look, I've answered the questions. I'm aware of the situation. I'm aware that I love being here, that I love playing with these guys, that I want to be healthy and productive and go out and win a World Series this year. So I think Max Fried is going to turn that page and take all that noise, put it off to the side, and focus on doing the thing that he has done so well for the Braves, which is help lead this pitching staff. Fried has been one of the best left-handers in baseball since joining the Atlanta rotation in 2019 when he was a 17-game winner. He was a runner-up for the Cy Young Award in 2022. And I don't know if I need to tell you again, and we've talked about it a lot here in the first game of the season, but it bears repeating. Max Fried was part of that 2021 club, had a pretty great moment himself, helping to close out that World Series. Those are the goals that he has for 2024. Now, as you look at last year, 14 starts thanks to a couple of stints on the injured list, one with a hamstring issue, another stint a little bit later on that took him out longer with a forearm strain. When he did pitch, he was very good. 8-1 with a 2.55 ERA in those 14 starts. Again, it's final year perhaps in Atlanta is the way a lot of people are looking at it, but Max Fried has really not focused on that. He went home in the winter, said his goal was to be stronger, to be ready to put that season behind him of 2023 because of the injury. And if you do look at Fried prior to that, it does feel like a bit of an outlier. So if he can prove he's healthy and go out and get things started and make the most of this 2024 season, who knows how things will play out after that. He's entering his age 30 campaign, feeling like a good winner, was under his belt, healthy and ready to go. Lifetime against the Philadelphia Phillies. Max Fried is 4-4 with a 3.62 ERA, 19 appearances, 13 of those starts. All of those, of course, regular season numbers. We talk a little bit about free agent walk years or free agent possibilities, and the Phillies were dealing with that over the course of the winter. They didn't waste very much time, though, as they got Aaron Nola back to a 7-year, $172 million contract to keep him in Philadelphia. Just 12-9 last year with a 4.46 ERA, but a durable pitcher, 32 starts, lots of strikeouts for Nola. But it's what he's done in the postseason and part of the Phillies' success the last couple of years that I think was the reminder and all the incentive that the Phillies needed to keep this guy around. So Aaron Nola is going to make his first start of the year after signing that 7-year deal to presumably spend most of, if not the rest of his career in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform. He's been a big part of their success, and the Braves, well, they have seen him an awful lot over the past, 7, 8 years now that he's been in the major leagues, maybe more than that, because Aaron Nola has really been a part of some Phillies success for quite some time since being chosen out of LSU way back in the day. Lifetime against the Braves, 15-10, a 3.40 ERA in 33 starts against Atlanta, 206 and 2/3 innings, 203 strikeouts. So we know we're going to see some swing and miss. The Braves, though, have been able to connect against Nola some in the regular season anyway, to the tune of some home runs. Atlanta with 28 home runs against Nola in those 33 starts. The Braves will be looking for their first home runs of the year as they have Max Fried on the mound and looking to secure a series victory against the Philadelphia Phillies, which would be a great first impression for the 2024 Atlanta Braves as they continue on a road trip to open up the 2024 campaign. The Braves will also stop off in Chicago, where they'll see the White Sox. A host of familiar faces and former Braves will be up there. Then they will come home and face the Arizona Diamondbacks to open up the series at home, or the home slate. And Max Fried should be lined up to get that start, as the Braves are planning to use all 5 of their starters on the road trip and get themselves back home and have Fried on the mound there. That means that Chris Sale will be throwing on Sunday, so we'll talk more about that when Jake Mastriani rejoins me. And then we'll get our first look at Charlie Morton and Reynaldo Lopez when Atlanta and Chicago, the White Sox, meet for the first 2 games of that 3-game series, and Spencer Strider should be lined up to close out that road trip, as the Braves will play 6 games on the road before heading home to open up that part of the schedule for 2024. But a very good first game for the Braves, as they were able to get some good pitching, get some timely hitting, pile up a whole bunch of runs late, and hand the Philadelphia Phillies a 9-3 loss. Atlanta will be looking to make it 2 in a row as Max Fried goes to the mound against Aaron Nola in Game 2 of the series. That's going to bring us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports and Locked On Braves right here on YouTube. Make sure that you leave us a like, a comment, a share, and all helps the show grow. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you riding along with us. And make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. You'll get the audio feed of each and every one of these shows throughout the year as well. Appreciate you riding along with me on this solo edition of the Braves Postcast to kick off the season. Jake Mastriani will be back next time, and until then, so long, everyone.